Good evening, everybody. Monday morning quarterback episode 79. Hope you all had a good start to your week. And we're going to talk torsion bars tonight. So last weekend we traveled to Springfield, Illinois for the Shorey Shootout, an indoor dirt quarter midget race. Good crowd over there, 150 some odd cars. Got to meet a lot of new customers, and we won a handful of classes. So that was a cool trip. We don't do a ton of dirt quarter midget racing. There's just not a lot of it in our area, but it's always good when we get to go to a dirt race, meet some customers. So that's our second one of the year. We went to Eldora as well. So this week, Thursday, heading to Charlotte for the World Finals to meet up with some customers and talk to a lot of people about torsion bars. We've been going to Charlotte every week here for the past month or so. Finalizing this deal with Pack Racing to move Schroeder torsion bars to our facility in Kokomo and bring it in-house with chalk. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight and the exciting things coming on the torsion bar front. For those of you interested, we have 3 spots left in our shock seminar. I believe this is probably the only shock seminar I'm going to get a chance to do this year with everything else we've got going on. It's probably be the only one we do until next off season. We are planning to do a quarter midget seminar in the spring. So if you're considering coming, there's a few spots left, and that'll be the day after the PRI show in December right here at our place in Brownsburg. So let's see what we got here. Thank you guys for tuning in, Rick and Steve. Looking forward to seeing Steve in Las Vegas here in a couple weeks. So after we get back from Charlotte, we're heading to Phoenix next week for the Western World to finish up the USAC sprint car season, and USAC midgets are there as well. And then we're going to go from there to the Hangtown 100, an event I'm really looking forward to. Grew up in Northern California there and spent many of Saturday nights at Placerville Speedway to see the national midgets out there with such a big purse, and everything that Matt Wood and his group is doing is really cool. So looking forward to the Hangtown 100. I'm going to do some dealer visits while we're out there, and then we'll go to Bakersfield for the next USAC midget race, and then on to Las Vegas for the Winter Nationals, which I'm assuming that's still a QMA race. I don't think Good Times has announced where they're going. It appears most all of the tracks are abandoning QMA and either going USAC or Power I. But nonetheless, that's a fantastic quarter midget race, and we're looking forward to going to that. So, Steve, we will be at the Winter Nationals. So tonight we're going to talk about torsion bars. So lots going on. We became a partner in Chalk Sticks about a year ago, a brand that we've sold here for a long time, a brand we're passionate about. We feel very confident in the quality of that product. We've been selling it for almost 10 years now, and so we were glad to join up with them. Torsion bars are a vital part of what we do, and so to have a brand that we were partners in and could have a little bit of control over quality and product development worked really good in everything we're doing. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but maybe 6 weeks ago, we were approached by Pack Racing, who had sold to Middle Ground Capital, and they were kind of doing away with their suspension spring line and the torsion bars. They didn't see that in their future business plan, so became available. We made several trips down there looking at everything. I've had several conversations with Gary Schroeder. The Schroeder brand is something I've been very familiar with, dating back to when I was a teenager working at MPD, and Schroeder private labeled a bar for us. So it's really cool to be part of the acquisition to bring Schroeder to Indiana and try to continue on the legacy, 60 plus years of making torsion bars. So the question I keep getting asked is, how are the two brands going to coexist? And it's pretty simple. There's people that either prefer a chalk bar or prefer a Schroeder bar, and there's a reason for that. It's a difference in feel, and we knew the way we like to make the chalk bars, the material we preferred, the processes in which we did that, heat treat specs, which is a lot of the secret sauce in a torsion bar. And now that we also have Schroeder, we have identified that their material specs are slightly different. Their heat treat specs are different. And so we totally intend to keep the brands separate. They are housed in the same place, but the Schroeder stuff's going to be made on that equipment. The chalk stuff's going to continue to be made how it's being made, and we're going to continue with those specs. So the material specs, the heat treat specs, the processes. So they will have totally different identities. So if you love Schroeder bars and that's what you're used to, that's how they'll be. And same thing for chalk. So the good thing for our customers is our buying power with materials and stuff like that. We're going to become more efficient. And will help be able to control costs moving forward and stuff like that. So a lot of exciting things, and as we work in both processes, long term we might be able to identify some things that are working better for one or another and improve both product lines. But right out of the gate, we don't intend to change anything. We just want to get finished goods on the shelf that customers are happy with and get those shipping. So Stephen, I think I answered your question there. So a couple questions as we're getting more involved with torsion bars. And again, we'll answer everybody's question here at the end regarding the acquisition, the differences between the two, anything racing related. But I wanted to cover a handful of questions that I've gotten constantly the past few weeks regarding torsion bars and how they work, and hopefully be able to give you a clearer picture about a torsion bar. So the first thing I'm going to show you, let me scroll over where I can see this, is, there you go, you can see the whole bar. So I got a short bar here. This is a chalk 14.5 micro bar. So on the chalk bar we just polish the ends, and you can see where my thumbs are. That's where the material starts to neck down. Well, this, from thumb to thumb there, that is the effective length of a torsion bar. And that's very critical to the overall rate of the bar. So the effective length is the area that's turned down on a torsion bar. All of the sprint car bars from chalk are a 23-inch effective length. Schroeder has both a 24 and a 23-inch effective length. So there's two options there on the Schroeder side depending on what you want. The other main difference in a torsion bar, in the midget and the micro stuff, there's not as many options. But in the sprint car, you either have a tubular bar, so material we can get out of tubing and machine, or a gun drilled bar. And so there's a material that both companies have felt is slightly better for a torsion bar, has better properties, seems to last a little bit longer, but you can't get that material in tubing, so then we have to gun drill the bar to make it hollow. Most everybody in our core markets, micros, midgets, sprint cars, are running hollow torsion bars. They're lighter, the response in driver feel seems to be better for what we do with a hollow. Now Schroeder makes a lot of solid bars too. Northeast Modifieds use a solid torsion bar. One of the main reasons for that is where a sprint car is twisting a bar 30-35 degrees, those Northeast Modifieds are twisting 60 degrees, which is like right at the yield rate of the bar where it's going to fail. So a hollow bar would not work for them. I mean, they'd be twisting it past the yield rate of the bar. So those are a couple of the differences. Both brands offer a tubular and a gun drilled bar. And then Schroeder has a couple different effective lengths on the sprint car side. So the micro bars at the moment are tubular, and the midget bars are tubular. Schroeder does have some gun drilled quick star bars on the midget side. And as we, like I say, we continue to look at what the customers want, we're ever changing with the marketplace. So it wasn't that long ago that everybody ran solid bars. So another question I get a lot, and I will go back where you can see the torsion bar. So when everybody ran a solid bar, if the bar was a 1025, this diameter here on the effective length was 1 inch 25 thousandths. Okay. When we went to a hollow bar, and that became the norm, powers that be, Gary Schroeder, Glenn Sander, the guys who were really into it at that point, they decided to determine what you needed to turn a hollow bar down to get the same rate as a solid 1025, and they would mark that 1025. So nowhere on a 1025 hollow bar are you going to measure and it's going to be inch 25 thousandths. But the reason being is that's going to be a very similar rate to a solid 1025, and that as people were converting from solid to hollow, that was the easiest way to go about that. So we get that question a lot. Hey, I bought a 1025 bar, it doesn't measure 1025. It's not going to, it's not supposed to. Let me see if I have any questions before I continue on the questions I had. Bill Bryce, does a Schroeder gun drill bar react slower than their tubular bar? To be 100% honest, Bill, I haven't dynoed a lot of the Schroeder gun drilled bars. I would assume it's going to react very similar to the chalk because the material differences are pretty parallel. And it doesn't really react any slower. It does tend to last longer because the material is different. And it tends to be a little livelier, so it reacts to weight a little bit better. And then at the higher displacement of the bar, there tends to be a little bit more rebound. So definitely has a different feel. We have customers who really prefer that feel, and then customers who just like the regular old tubular bar. And that's how the bars have been made for a long time, is with that the tubing. So Greg, I'm not very familiar with the Bicknell energy bars. We have pack changed some things when they moved everything from Gary's place in Burbank to North Carolina. There was a few hiccups there with heat treat. They tried to do some heat treat in-house. I'm not exactly familiar with that brand you're talking about, but I'd be interested in talking to you further about that and seeing if that's something that we can improve on. On the midget and sprint car side, we're kind of back to Gary's recipe on everything and getting things back where they needed to be, and I think Pack had everything back on track when they sold to Middle Ground earlier this year. Dylan, should bars be changed after any sort of wreck? So anytime the bar is going to get twisted past its normal operating range, I would recommend replacing it. So if you flip and you know those bars got twisted a lot, it broke an arm or broke a stop, I would replace them. If you are in question, we can dyno it. Anybody that has a Maxwell or an AccuForce torsion bar dyno that's measuring the compression and rebound, they're going to be able to tell you if that bar is different than it should be, and that's a good indicator. Another really good indicator is to spin it in V-blocks, and if the thing's more than about 10 thousandths out of round, it's not going to be good any longer. So that'll kind of answer that. Going back to the torsion bar dynoing, we get this question a lot. When we dyno a bar, what exactly are we getting? And basically what we're getting is the spring rate of the bar. So on a Maxwell or an AccuForce, it's twisting the bar to a certain point that we tell it, and it's getting a spring rate on the up travel and the down travel. So it's simply same as you would check a spring on a spring rater. It's giving us the spring rate of the torsion bar. Now that changes depending on what length arm you run. Typically we're just dynoing all of our stuff on a 12-inch steel arm, and that's a good constant for us. There's no deflection there, and we're getting the true rate of the bar. However, that spring rate will vary based on what length arm you have and where it picks up. So the next question I got several times is, when you are preloading a torsion bar or putting turns in a torsion bar, are you just changing the ride height, or are you actually changing the spring rate of the bar? Well, you're definitely changing the ride height. You're not necessarily changing the spring rate of the bar, but you're putting weight in that corner of the car as you wind it up. So as you preload that bar, you're going to be up into the rate farther. So same thing as if you compress a coil spring, you didn't change the rate of the spring, but now the spring's loaded at a different point, and it's going to build rate faster at ride height. So you're adding weight to that corner, and you are preloading that bar, which is getting the linearity to that rate. You're starting into that slope depending on how much you preloaded it. Aaron wants to know the difference on the different levels of chalk. So we talked about that a little bit. The chalk sticks bar is the tubular bar that everybody's used forever. The sticks 2 is the solid material that we gun drill out. And a lot of guys feel that that's a little bit better material, has better properties for what we're doing as far as twisting the bar. And then the max bar is everything the same as the sticks 2, except for we do another metallurgy treatment to it to get all the little imperfections out of the OD finish. So when a bar comes back from heat treat, it gets straightened and polished, and you can still feel where it's been polished. It's basically been polished with a really fine sandpaper. The max bar gets sent out, and it comes back and it's almost like chrome. It's smooth as glass. So we have some customers that really feel strongly that the bar lasts longer once you do that, because you've taken all those imperfections out, and some guys that just swear by that max bar because of that. I haven't personally twisted it enough on the machine to see when we're starting to see a life change between the 2 and the max, but aesthetically they do look a lot different. Mike, it is $15 a bar, or $12 if you send 10 or more. That's our price. I don't know if everybody else probably has a different price, but that's what we charge. It's a pretty labor-intensive process to dyno a torsion bar. It's just like putting it in the car, setting your stop, and then we wind it up several times to warm it up, and then do a data run. So that brings me to another question when I talk about warming up the bar. I get a question for when you put new bars in and you run the first time and you go back to block the car, the stop bolt tends to be quarter, half turn different than when you originally blocked it. And that is true. Kind of a fad right now, which we've been doing it for a long time when we dyno customers' bars. We are twisting that bar the same as you would on the race car. So I know there's some other people in the marketplace that are selling pre-stressed, is what they call it, pre-stressed torsion bars. So they've been twisted a certain direction. When you get them, you can block it and go. That does help. We do the same thing when we dyno it. We call it dynoing a bar, not pre-stressing it. However, in my experience, when you do put that in the race car, it's still going to move a little bit that first time. No matter what we do here on the dyno, on the racetrack, it's going to get twisted a little harder, a little longer. So what I always recommend is if you got a new set of bars in, travel to the track with the car on the ground. If you don't have airbags or blocks under it, reblock it when you get to the track. It's probably going to be a little bit different. And after that first hot lap session, put the blocks back under it and check it. After that, it pretty much takes a set and it should be good. If it continues to move around a lot, that might be an indication that something's gone wrong with the torsion bar. But typically after you reblock it after the first run, that bar is taking its set and it'll be in good shape for you. Don, yes, we are at CSI. We're partners in both Chalk and Schroeder, and both are housed under one roof there at our facility in Kokomo. So, Stephen, do bars last longer if cryo frozen? That's a good question. I personally haven't done any of that. I know in NASCAR they were doing the cryo to a lot of parts, especially engine parts. Never done it to a torsion bar, so that's a good question. I'm not sure on that. The last question that I had noted down that people continue to ask is, when a torsion bar gets old, does it get stiffer or softer? And typically what happens is the overall spring rate of the bar will actually get a little bit stiffer, but what happens is it really slows down on rebound. So the bar's not as lively as what I would call it. It will, when you twist it up, it's going to have this same spring rate, but it's not going to return back to center quite as quick as when it was new. When I worked for Outlaw Team and before torsion bar dynos, how we would kind of check our bars when we were out on the road is we had our basic set of tires that all ruled out a specific diameter that we would block our cars, and then set them on the ground to measure tilt, etc. Without the shocks hooked up, we'd always measure our corner heights on a flat piece of ground, and when we would get a corner sagging, we would then switch that bar out. So that was kind of the old school way of checking bars. I guess I mentioned earlier, another good way is after you've crashed is to check them in V-blocks, because if that bar gets bent at all, it's not going to respond the way you want it to. So Andrew, I would love to get to Australia and New Zealand for that matter. We got a lot of midget customers over there. The hard thing for me is your guys' big races always tend to fall right around Shootout and Chili Bowl. And then the other big races is during Christmas. And with two little ones at home, it's hard. So I am going to get over there. I'm not exactly sure when, but we'll definitely make a trip over there. We're super excited to see our products continue to go over there and do good things. So, Don, so you've tried the cryo on a torsion bar. Yeah, anybody, that's something I would look into. Anybody that has those bars, we could run them on the dyno and see what they look like. So, anybody else have any questions tonight for me on torsion bars, their race program, pit logic, anything I can answer? That's what we are here for. Once we get all of the Schroeder equipment and everything moved and set up, so we were there last week, moved like 11 semi-loads of stuff to our facility in Kokomo. We'll do a plant tour. We'll show you guys how a torsion bar is made, and maybe do a Monday morning quarterback based around that, because I think that would be pretty neat for everybody to see. It's a lot longer process than most people realize. It's a pretty labor-intensive process, and so that would be cool to show you all. So, no more questions. Well, we certainly appreciate you guys all tuning in. If you enjoy our videos, please like and share so more people can see them. If you have racing friends that aren't on Facebook or social media, we do post these videos to our YouTube page, so you can subscribe there and see them there. And we hope you all have a fantastic week, and hope to see you at a racetrack soon. Take care, guys.